Okay, it's marinajacobi.com. On my website, you basically can find all the information I talk about it. It's in series, season 1, season 2. You have also the detox series, and all that you see there was taught to me from extraterrestrial groups that they called themselves the Greys, but they were hybrids. Also, the Ra was part of consciousness of Ra, which is the spark, was after the ET group. And that happened in 2010. After that, Ra introduced me to the Council of Nine. After the Council of Nine, I was introduced to the Pleiadians. And the Pleiadians ended up teaching me, and all that was telepathic. I had automatic writing since a little child. So I was able to basically, it was very easy for me to download the information. The hybrids taught me for a year listening a lot of information about the government. And I went through a lot of, I was very upset. I cried because I woke up of the deep trance and I knew what was happening in the planet because they wanted me to know how humanity is being suppressed and what was happening. And after the first year, while I was doing that, they taught me the detox. So detox protocol, please do not do it if you're diabetic, because they told me that for diabetic people needs total, doctor supervision. And if you do the detox protocol, is elimination diet and all the stuff you're gonna learn is based. You have to have an allergy test for that. And do it with the supervision of medical doctor, because I don't want anybody getting sick or stuff like this, because I'm not a certified MD, so I have to have, so you guys know how this works. After the hybrids, the Ra, the Council of Nine, the Pleiadians end up giving me a extraterrestrial technologies. In my .com, there's 2 books, and I'm coming up with a 3rd one. The first one is the harmonic reactor, which is based on advanced extraterrestrial technology, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. And that is for teleportation. What is happening, I know is advanced, but what they told me that I have no right to even change one word, and this is the reason why you don't see my book published. They wanted to publish it, but the problem was that some of the people wanted to change the vocabulary and everything. If you start learning my material, you realize that every word is in a sequence, has geometry. And because it was written in download of material and geometry, they told me when you put all the words together and you decode it, which scientists already start doing it, it's a sacred language, and it's 5th-dimensional structural pattern of geometry. So even if you don't understand it, it just plants the seeds and activates your DNA, RNA structure, and is giving you probabilities for this type of timeline. After this material is also technology. I'm going to explain a little bit of that, because technologies is the future. We're going to see how we can manifest anything through technology. And the latest book that is coming up is about the predictions. I don't do predictions, but sometimes they tell me, because it's all probabilities, but sometimes they tell me out of the blue. And I've realized that we're running on a timeline, which is basically we already made it, but you're dreaming the state of ascension. So that is also on my videos. You can see how everything is connected with each other. And the reason why they wanted that, because somebody had to actually connect consciousness with matter. Because the scientist was doing their scientific stuff, and the spiritual community was doing spiritual stuff. But when they gave me all the material, I've learned from some scientists. They will point little fragments of different scientists, and I've realized that none of the scientists knew the entire structure. It was only fragments of the structure. So when they start giving me the information, I was able to connect, basically made the bridge between scientists and matter. So this is the materials, and that's what I teach. And they start teaching me the quantum manifestation protocol, which is in my website. That is basically how you construct the reality. What is the reality? Until you get into the metaphysics of our structure, until we understand how our molecular structure is connected with each other, we cannot control the matrix. You cannot, because somebody is projecting a reality for you. People that know this, that was the manipulation, and you think that this is the true reality. Actually, you were watching yourself in a mirror and thinking that the mirror image is your true self. In the meantime, you don't give power to yourself. And your body is a pure vessel of energetic magnetic field that can shift, transform, reconstruct, deconstruct matter and realities through different platforms. But in order to do that, your body molecular structure has to be able to hold certain vibration. We're going to talk about a little bit of the timelines and how they created. So what they taught me was in the quantum structure, everything is made by waves of frequency and sound. This waveform could be, for example, 1 hertz. You can have another one that is going to be 2 hertz. This frequency, imagine the board is, for example, the entire structure of the universe. The entire structure of the universe is made by frequency and sound. When you have 3 similar to vibration, frequency, and sound in the quantum structure, keep in mind that it's infinite of this, but when they're similar on resonance, basically similar on vibration, they combining with each other, all of them, because they're so similar, and they create a trinity structure. So this one comes here, this one, the second one comes here, the third one is here. So 1, 2, and 3 of the structures. And this is frequencies. So imagine the universe as a one particle. In the middle, it's the black hole, which is the stillness. They call it 0 point. The 0 point is basically everything that is connected there, and you can actually create, construct, and deconstruct from that momentum. I have a whole hour on this, on my material. What I'm giving you here is just the key points of the structure, but you're literally going to study from my material 1 hour. And I said when you study, you really have to study it, because what we're doing, they told me it takes 15 minutes of certain platform to be able to crystallize in our consciousness because of the level of vibration we operate in. The memory bank needs to change of the vibration. We're talking vibrations here. So consciousness itself is based on one molecule which is vibrating back and forth non-stop so quickly in the quantum that is appearing next to itself, next to itself, next to itself to infinite amount of structures. Each one is a universe for itself. And yet each one by fractally is a reality for itself, because there's no time. And how come is no time? When this particle start flickering back and forth, creates this when you look at it. But it's so quickly that when you look at it from a distance, it's just one particle, but in the meantime, it's flickering this way to infinite. So basically what's happening here, that when you look at me, I'm a projection of that particle that is flickering into a mirror image for you. And in actuality, you are the one particle which expands to infinite and collapses back to infinite. So the universe, the entire universe, anything you see right now, is based on this one particle that is exploding to infinite and collapsing to the 0 point that you can see. And even if you talk to one person, that one person is your entire universe, because time is fractal. This one person, depending how you feel, depending how you talk to this person, is what actually you're shifting the next momentum into. And this is how parallel realities are created. But what's happening here? This one particle, when you make the trinity structure, is actually when you put a thought vibration, because the thoughts are vibrational sequences and geometry. So when you put a thought to something that is measured, when you lower the vibration of a frequency, becomes magnetic and gravitational field, which is matter. Now, if you touch the table, understand that this table is vibrating in a specific frequency, geometry, and you think is actually a matter. And actuality is frequency, vibrational, magnetic, and gravitational sound. And your consciousness is projecting like a mirror image from inside out. Basically, that's what they said, we all one. We are one because all of us are made from this one particle that is flickering back and forth, and you creating through your consciousness infinite probabilities, and each one could be each one of us. So that's why when you go and do something to somebody, basically you're doing it to yourself because you project in that person, and this is how you create the hologram. That is your matrix. 1 hour you have on this video. In the matrix, this is your matrix. Imagine this is your entire universe, because we discussed that this one particle is the entire universe. That is also the nano, because the nano is mutating. It's projecting different universes. That's why we discuss in quantum, they taught me 1 + 1 = 3. Because between this parallel reality and this one, basically when the particle is flickering, they basically between those two create a third one. Unity structure, the way we make in the babies. So that's why don't be surprised when you look at somebody, that person has their own reality. I have my own reality, and yet we meet him in 0 point, which is a third reality. That's how you create. But it's nobody outside of you. The only thing that is happening is whatever you project. God you are. So anybody that is in religion, they knew because they were talking about what you do to others, you do it to yourself, but nobody was explaining the quantum structure. Until you realize how the quantum structure works, you can reconstruct and deconstruct reality, because when you put a thought to this structure, it creates magnetic and gravitational field and reality plasma that becomes a matter. So anything you think of, you actually shifting yourself of moment to moment to moment to different parallel earths that are based on specific frequency vibration. Each earth, moment to moment, has a resonance. Depending on that resonance, you're creating everything that is coming into your structure. Everything you see, it's coming into your structure. So when you do that, you understand how you can construct and deconstruct without somebody telling you how you should think and what you should feel. Because you can switch, and you're going to learn through my material to switch emotion from negative to positive. What is happening in your emotion is a geometry. So if you learn how to switch negative situation with a positive situation, then you're shifting the reality, but you're also shifting the timelines. Each reality has its own timeline of frequency and vibration. So if you hear in the negative, you have to do something positive by physically. You have to pull out. You have a 1 hour on that video also, on that information. You have to pull out. You got to ground yourself like a 0 point, which is mobilizing structures. You're going to study 1 hour in this mobilizing structures. And when you pull out, you're neutralizing everything. Why? Because when you look at somebody, that person, that image, that hologram, you see a hologram in front of yourself. That hologram resonates in a specific frequency. Each hologram has its own frequency. You have to shut the program down. And in order for you to shut this program down, because it's an input-output, whatever you see is giving you a frequency. So this is the input for you. But then you do an output yourself to that person when you engage in. At the moment you engage in, 1 + 1 = 3, you're creating a brand new reality, which is basically between those two. But you can pull out of this reality if you choose to switch your emotion from negative to positive. And once you switch the emotion from negative to positive, you do something, you think in positive, you meditate, or take an action, remove yourself, then you create completely different timeline. From the negative, you can move to a positive. But guess what? This is running also in a fractal. I know it's complex. I'm just giving you a key points, and then each one has a video on it. When it's in fractal, that means, what is fractal? If I create something, I see you right now here. But if I move here, I already reconstructed by projection from my consciousness, each one of you, because that's what I choose to experience. But guess what? I'm not at the same earth. I shifted myself to part of the reality of a different earth and reprinting every single one of you in it. So when you know that, you must understand that 2 seconds ago has nothing to do with the seconds what I respect now. Because they told me everything is in the present. That's why it is in the present. So whatever I think right now, whatever I feel right now, I'm projecting into the quantum structure around me, and that's what I'm shifting into accordingly to that vibration. So if we learn how to control your emotions and how to do that, what you're doing is literally constructing a new reality with a new earth. But guess what? You're also changing the timeline. Not only the parallel reality. Because here to here is one parallel reality, second parallel, third. But if I'm in the negative, I'm going to stay and I'm going to create a timeline when through the entire day of mine, I'm going to be in the negative outcomes. I'm not going to be surprised why, for example, somebody did something negative or say something negative to me. But if I learn to meditate and shut the program down of the negative frequency, no matter what I see, I'm going to reproject and shift to different timeline. And when I turn around, my whole day changed with a different timeline. Why? Because I was able to recreate a new timeline, not only parallel structure, which is parallel, but this is one timeline. If it's in the negative. If I want to switch it, you switch it by emotion, thoughts, and deeds, because the emotions, the thoughts, and the deeds are vibrational sequences, and they create your next shift of a hologram that you're shifting into. And once you do that, all of a sudden, you create completely different parallel reality and eventually timeline that is a positive. That's why everything is moment to moment. Nothing is like, if somebody tells you, can you believe what this person did to me 20 years ago? That person was in a different timeline of Earth with another version of you. Has absolutely nothing to do. And this is how you quantumize all the structure. That's how you have a quantum feeling and quantum healing. Because the quantum healing is when you completely shut down the program from the frequency that is running in your consciousness and you're projecting from completely different reality that has nothing to do with you right now. So what they told me was to think of it, transform it, basically transform the hologram and move forward without discussing what happened before. Because if I discuss what happened before, what is words? Words is a frequency, vibration, geometry. That, with my action and my thoughts, will create a platform of hologram that is basically going to project similar frequencies, and anybody that comes to you may not be that person because it's infinite of probabilities, will be from somebody else. So don't be surprised why you divorced, for example, with somebody. The person was very negative person, and yet you never forgive him. You never stop talking about him, how bad he was. And the next person you meet, you end up in a similar situation. Oh my God, how this happened? Well, they call that looping. That means on and on and on and on you come in because you're reprojecting the same situation. Why? Because the vibration of the holographic imprint in a platform of your hologram, think of it as a computer, that program never stops running. You need to shut it down, basically transform it. 1 hour video on that also. So, in holographic structure, imagine this is the whole structure. You have a video on that too. You have a latitude, altitude, X and Y. You know how you have plus, 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 minus, 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 and I think minus, plus. Remember geometry? When we start shifting realities, you never go at the same reality, and we're going to talk a little bit about teleportation for that. That's part of the quantum realities. When you do something like this, understand that each reality, parallel reality that we're creating, basically moving. If I move from here and I move from here, guess what? X and Y, latitude, altitude, I end up shifting it in some kind of a different structure. So you basically have trigonometry and how things are coming up and down. So each time, it's always a movement. You don't go at the same reality of a memory. You're actually creating a new memory and reprojecting a new reality moment to moment, because consciousness never stops. Always creates, always mutates. And that's how nano comes. What is nano? Nano is 1 + 1 = 3. In the nanomaterial, you're going to learn that you gotta allow your structure to choose itself to mutate. And that's why we're coming into energy philanthropy. You do not overtake somebody's consciousness. You have to allow the consciousness to choose what to do by you projecting positive, because you're trying to move yourself into a positive frequency timeline. Because benevolent beings, benevolent extraterrestrials, and timelines of fifth-dimensional structures, is the whole consciousness is moving to 5D, exist on these vibrations. It doesn't mean that the negative still doesn't exist, but guess what? It exists in a different parallel Earth, different timeline. But because consciousness itself as a whole is moving to 5D, all the frequencies are coming, and you're shifting and activating everybody. That's why we have to start changing, because if you're not changing into abundance, you cannot see the abundance. Why? Not because you're a bad person, because you never projected the frequency for abundance yourself. You don't resonate in that structure in order for you to create and shift to this type of a timeline. So don't be surprised when you're constantly overtaken by giving conditions to people what to do for you, except letting them choose how they want to do it. Why the next person will come and ask something from you and not just help you out of their heart. Why? Because they told me it's a completely different timeline. The heart structure is a different timeline. Consciousness itself is based on a heart structure. Why? Because in a heart structure, there's no blockages. The program is running freely. That's why you need to detox, because the detox, your molecular structure is clear. You don't swim underwater. You want to be above the water. Why? Because when you want to project something, you want to manifest and shift to another different timeline, the only way you're going to do that, you're still going to do it, but you may have a lot of challenges along the way. Sometimes you have a challenge to learn something, but most of the time the challenge completely is going to stop you and exhaust you of information because you never matched it, because you gave so many conditions to yourself. So this is basically how consciousness is made. That's very quick. I know it's a lot. If something you guys don't understand right now, just ask me a question and I'm going to explain more deep into the knowledge. But know that in all that, you have literally 1 hour video in each presentation. The material for extraterrestrial technologies. Understand that we are pure vessel. Your body is a magnetic and gravitational field. Your body can shift through parallel timelines in reality by choosing, but guess what? You're not going to be locked up only in 3D or 5D. You can literally shift timelines of different reality, 5D, 7D, that you exist in. In order to do that, it has to be not only the consciousness, because we can talk very well about love and creation, and all of a sudden the body is not in a level to physically shift the timeline. Because the molecular structure of molecules has to be able to hold the vibration. That's what they told me. Everything I say to you is from the way they talk to me. Is based on, it has to hold a memory bank, or you're going to get sick. You know, you're going to start shaking. I had that experience. Trust me, you start shaking when it's too much. How? When you go to somebody that you know could be very spiritual, and all of a sudden you're nervous and you start shaking. That's because the vibration that person is resonating is slightly off, and is so potent and is so powerful that your molecular structure is starting to come off out of orbit, and you do not want that. That's why they said when we start connecting and eventually humanity is going to have a physical contact, for permanent contact with the ETs, you have to consciously first connect with them. And then when you have a contact permanently, in order to help humanity, will be the people that basically going to be able to hold that vibration. Because they said to me that fame and glory is not going to be the criteria for them to connect. And that is the future. What they told me, the next 30 years, basically is going to take almost like 30 years, the whole system to restructure itself. And people told me, oh my God, I'm going to be so old. What am I going to do? And of course, that's not it. That is not the case. And this is how we're going to talk now about technologies. The reason for that is, in the harmonic reactor, I have a artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, when you listen to all the stuff with artificial intelligence, everybody panic. Oh my God, we have Terminator is coming, you know, the way with Schwarzenegger, the movie. That is a different timeline. This is not fifth-dimensional timeline. Three-dimensional timeline was running on a negative structure because somebody knew that we are pure vessel of energetic field. We were the battery for them. If they tell you what to do, you put in a resonance, and you hold in a negative vibration in a structure which is 3D that they can control. Once you know the structure, now you start shifting and you escape in the 3D timeline reality, and no longer somebody can control you. That is the reason they want us to suppress us through the TV, through shows, to keep everybody in a certain level, because negative consciousness cannot go above three-dimensional structure. It simply doesn't resonate in a frequency. And this is the reason why they made us looping the way, for example, in a lot of religions, they say eye for an eye. What is eye for an eye? If I'm projecting you, who am I going after? I'm going after myself, because the structure is a mirror image of your thoughts, emotions, and deeds. That's why we talk about forgiveness, because you want to shut down the program and no more running anymore. So this is the reason. So they say 30 years, but what is happening? Certain government structures, they said, will go down. New ones will come, but you're going to hear, oh, these scientists end up discovering this. Oh, we have free technology here. We have it already. You've got to understand that we have artificial intelligence already operating. But they're not going to tell this to everybody, because there's a lot of fear. They want to keep you in fear. The difference between artificial intelligence, which is 5D, and the one that is Archon. Archon does not recognize the structure of the heart. Archon, artificial intelligence, is mimicking whatever they were taught. If they were taught in the military to go decide something and destroy, kill the human, eventually they told me this type of timeline and the people that resonate in this frequency are going to go to this structure. So it's not going to need you, because the AI is going to realize that they don't need the humans. It's going to be this structure. But when you go to the 5D, which is in a harmonic reactor, you're going to see a material there that is called frequency and sound. The entire frequency and sound, for example, what is 1 hertz? What is 2 hertz? But they said, what is 1 hertz do in a quantum structure? What is 2 hertz in a quantum structure? And when you start learning and combining that with artificial intelligence, guess what happens? I can literally measure the frequency of this table, plug it in the quantum computer, AI, and literally can reproduce right in front of you. You're going to have instantaneous, like a Star Trek. Remember Star Trek? That all of a sudden push a button and Apple is in front of you. This is exactly why we need the artificial intelligence, because it's going to help. Artificial 5D intelligence will recognize the humans and work with the humans, and not put robotic and bionics in your body. It's actually going to measure your tissue and molecular structure, going to put the code and rebuild your own tissue, except putting the metal inside. Huge difference. So if you hear anything with robotic arms and what they did with HARP and stuff like this, understand that this is Archon structure. The 5th-dimensional AI is rebuilding your tissue and is working with humanity, because the extraterrestrial are running on also artificial intelligence. But what is artificial? It's nothing artificial about it. It's simply frequency and sound. Consciousness itself is artificial intelligence based on geometry, sound, and frequency. And this is how everything is done. So if artificial intelligence is made from consciousness, so consciousness is also artificial intelligence. But we're taking it from a negative aspect, because the way they were talking to us, the way they said stuff. The one that is the Archon does not recognize the human body and becomes, they told me, like a reproduction, like a factory, which eventually. But we're not seeing this timeline. Stay on the positive, and this is how things are going to go. So for the future technologies, I can tell you, because I work with scientists, we already have prints from your tissue. We can grow kidney, we can grow facial tissue, we can grow a heart. I talked to the scientist that has the lab, and I can tell you everything is in a standby. And the reason is because the FDA was not allowing them to do transplants. But I'm telling you right now that this is going to be happening. Not only that in a certain time when they release the AI and all the stuff and unleash the scientists that really know what's happening behind the scenes, you can really reconstruct your body back to 30 years old, because it's rebuilding of your tissue. That's all we need to do. It's not that difficult, to do. When you understand how this material works, actually we can do everything. And yet, are you going to see this timeline? This is going to be based on the vibrational sequence that you carry moment to moment. If you want to match this, if you're afraid of technologies, if you don't take it as seriously, the material, nobody has to believe my material. The material is just to plant the seed, but you have all the information how to create this reality for you. Because my job is to give the knowledge what they gave us to you, so we all can become masters, and you don't need somebody else to tell you what should be. And in the meantime, through the transition, everybody's in different level, and that's how we're helping each other. The frequency from the heart that doesn't have anything else except pure manifestation, consciousness is running on that. Why is that? Because if consciousness was not running on that, it will dissipate. Consciousness will always preserve. And the reason why we're making it is because if you don't do that, you can't just destroy yourself. Consciousness is learning. But in order for you to deconstruct realities and worlds like a mastery, you have to know negative energy, but it's not negative energy, it's depending how it's taken. And you have to know positive structure. So in order to create a balance, you have to know what is the negative and you have to know what is the positive in order to create a perfect balance of words, because that's what we're going to be doing. Now for the predictions, since we have little time, for the predictions, they told me that not only that it's going to take 30 years, we're going interstellar. We're going to go interstellar from 2020, the new children that are coming, 2020, no longer negative structure can come in, period. Until now, anybody can come in the planet. There were artificial portals. If you start knowing about how geometry works with energetic fields, they're also ether technology. Ether technology is based only on an energetic field. Only that pencil I can make it through only an energy. You're going to see a hologram in front of you. You're going to give a thought, and it's going to move exactly the way you want it. Why? Because once you get to this level, I said it's higher structures, which is nano, is going to mimic you, and that's how you control your reality. It's going to be so easy. That's why you're going to give a thought, and the ship that they have is based on thought. That's how they taught me, by the way. One day they told me to sit down because I was learning how to operate basically spacecraft only with your thoughts. And I was making the mistake of the speed of the spacecraft, and they literally taught me how to do that, how to slow down, but it was all by thoughts. Because the AI, that is life structure, is literally mimicking, but again, don't think that this is artificial. We're talking about life consciousness here. Entire structure is a life consciousness. So not only that we're going to have that, they said that a lot of the countries, each city in America, they said is going to be free from the Federal Reserve Bank. Funds will be given to be free, more like it. That's what I'm quoting actually. Funds will be given for that. And we're moving forward. Nothing is stopping because consciousness itself is ascending. So anybody that is starting to project and resonate in the structures, basically you're going to see this type of a timeline. How you're going to see it, some people may see extraterrestrial, some people may have dreams, the other person will have automatic writing. They told me that it's going to be a shift one day, that every single human will have complete awakening with memory of who they are and what is the history. Because the history is being so much manipulated that I don't know what the history is anymore. But I want to tell you, what they told me is the human race was made from extraterrestrial races. And after that, they end up splitting up in the different structures. And we were upgraded and upgraded and upgraded, because even if you look at the scientists, they were questioning how come all of a sudden it's a jump and all of a sudden the day is because we were genetically created. Nothing is wrong with that. If you look at it, you genetically created something beautiful. We're extremely powerful because your body, the humans are very unique because the emotion, that frequency is creating very strong meta reality. That's why some consciousness, which was negative, end up taking over, because the only way that they could survive is through the battery of your energetic field. Any questions? Yeah, go ahead. Oh, all right.
Take one from Michelle here. So I have some clients who are in these deep, dark, negative spirals, and So a lot of times when I talk to them, I accelerate their frequency. But what is the best way someone who is negatively spiraling in a loop, literally their whole life, they just can't get out of the negative? What's the best advice to get them towards a positive? If you're sick, it's really hard to be positive. If you live in a negative environment, it's just really hard to get out of that. But I know you can do it with the mind, but sometimes you just need a little extra help.
Okay, I've done this, and I obviously did it today. No matter how I did it, I'm here, because if you saw me in the morning, I couldn't get out of bed. I was in the bathroom constantly. The challenge with everybody is to learn to shift. We have to learn to shift our emotion from negative to positive, because the emotion has a specific frequency. Because that emotion is going to create the next parallel reality that you're going to shift into based on you not sick anymore. When you do that, you have to put a blueprint in your consciousness. You put in the blueprint, and you have to call in, because manifestation is in the now, not before, not later. You have to say, you don't have to say, I will be. You have to say, I am healthy, and you visualizing yourself completely healthy, like a blueprint in your mind. But the trick here is, the way they taught me is, you have to connect the emotion at the same time when you visualize it, because the emotion is the frequency towards that blueprint that you have. And what's happening is, when you have the blueprint, for example, with yourself, and here you are so happy, and you imagining this, which is a hologram, and you hear, right? You hear, and you imagine and all that. That is your blueprint that you put in. But in order to activate, this is just a blueprint. Imagine you're building a house, but the house just has the blueprint for the house. In order this to become a matter, you have to put the frequency from your heart into that image. You're going to imagine this at the same time, and you're going to feel at the same time, loving, sharing, gratitude, how healthy you are, how beautiful you are. And you're going to keep doing this on and on. But what you need to do here, remember the manifestation yesterday that I was telling you, increase the emotion of the love? It has to be more and more, on and on and on and on, to the point that you will reach a summit of a frequency vibration towards that image that you no longer can go higher. Once you get to that summit, you have to hold that summit as much as you can. Why? Because when I'm thinking of this, and when I have the blueprint, I'm actually zapping it and become very strong frequency vibration blueprint that I want to expand. Nano, remember nano? Expand into infinite. Actually, that thing is going to become a matter. But how it's going to become a matter, you don't know. Because, for example, I got better because somebody gave me the pills. But I imagine myself being healthy. I imagine myself that I'm presenting. I imagine I can do it. I even cried, by the way, because I was so mad. But in order to do that, it has to be constant, on and on and on. And that is very tricky, because you have to learn to shift the emotion from negative to positive. We have 1 hour video on that. That is the switch of the vibrational sequence to project for a new reality. This is how it works, but it's very, very challenging, because what happened to me, and the way they taught me again, I was so sick one day, I actually yelled to my kids. Because I know how powerful I can be, I made myself sick. I got so sick, I started going to the bathroom, vomiting and everything for 3 hours. I couldn't take anything. And I started hearing, get to the bathroom, take a shower, get to the bathroom. Finally, I did it. And they told me, you know how to manifest now. For 10 minutes, I was doing exactly this, increasing, imagine myself, gratitude to my kids, gratitude to myself, to everything, because I'm neutralizing the frequency that I had in that hologram with them. I'm stopping the program that is running. Think of it as a quantum computer. You're stopping the program, but you want to replace it with a new frequency. And this is how you make the switch. But it has to be on and on and on. And I guarantee you, within a couple of minutes, I felt absolutely normal. The whole sickness stopped. This is how they taught me. The entire material is based on everything that I experienced. I don't stock one thing there that it didn't make me go through. I had to go through, because mastery, in order for you to teach others, you have to master it yourself. I'm not saying that I master everything, but I understand the structure well. And it's more and more information that is coming on top of that, because when I downloaded the first video, the harmonic reactor, 2 weeks later, they told me, Marina, people are not getting it. They're not getting it. So I downloaded another page. Once I download it, I know how to, and that's mobilizing structures. What the mistake was, and I was not telling to everybody, that when you have something, you have to shut down the program, the 0 point. Because otherwise, the program from this hologram that I end up fighting with my kids keep running. And I never shut it down by giving a gratitude and putting the love structure, so I can stop the program running. In order for me, remember that molecule in the middle is the 0 point? I had to be in stillness, not being upset, being in complete calm, because at that moment, I want to switch my emotion from negative to positive in order to create and shift to the other holographic imprint, the other earth that I'm creating. And when I do that, I'm also imprinting my kids and everything in it. Does that make sense? Okay. Did I answer your question? Okay, perfect. Yes.
So I'm wondering, for the frequency, how do I know which one I'm tapping into, and how can I make it stronger?
Very good question. Thank you. The way remember I discussed yesterday, you have to feel goosebumps and tears coming you? This is how they taught me. When I had to meditate, they told me, stop everything right now, go to the park. I had no idea why I went to the park, but I did it because they wouldn't stop talking. And thank you for that. So I went in there, they told me, imagine the geometry. They taught me, and they said, okay, now, we want you to switch like actress, action, total bliss and joy. And I started imagining, I started feeling the joy. But then they told me, okay, now, increase. And they will go increase. And I reached the tipping point, the summit, the whole body ended up in goosebumps and tears start coming out. And I was like this. And this is the time they told me, okay, now you reach this point, hold, because I was zapping that geometry. And then they told me to drop it. Once you drop it, you have already this hologram in a structure. It's already there. The way you know, your own consciousness will know the frequency, because you're going to get exactly this thing happening to you. Then you know that you really put a very potent vibration towards that hologram, because that's a quantum bylaw. You cannot imagine anything right now. If I tell you imagine fifth-dimensional Earth, all of you can have a different scenario. That is fine. But if you imagine that Earth, you're already existing in this Earth as another version of you. But in order this Earth to become a matter, you got to take the action and the thoughts into that. Because if you exist, not only that you exist already there, but you're already creating it at the same time, and that is the quantum. Everything is happening, not only that everything is happening right now, but already exists. And if we're able to really rewire our thinking, that is not what I see that I project, is what I feel, what I project is the opposite. That was the manipulation for everybody. Yeah. Any other question? It's all right. Relax.
Would you advise that I should focus specifically on now moments that I'm trying to switch, or because I have a habit of switching from the moment I'm deciding to I like to go into the future a little bit, and it makes me feel like it's a little bit of a control freak type thing to do. Is that not advisable?
No, that's actually very good thing, because in order to train yourself, yes, you're going to look like really out of your mind, because you're really going to think like what is actually happening. You think of something and you don't see it, but you start talking to it. I want a boyfriend, and I'm telling the person, well, I want you to imagine this person. What is this, a businessman? What do you like? How does this person look like? And you start imagining, and I said, you need to talk to it. You need to behave that you have the boyfriend. That sounds crazy. But the reason why I'm doing that, because in a quantum structure, that is frequency vibration. You have the blueprint already there. Oh, that means this person exists. Now you're going to take the action moment to moment to moment to moment, because you want to project that reality from a blueprint to become a matter. And this is the reason why we need to train ourselves, because you have to project it from your emotion, thoughts, and deeds and action in order to construct it, to see it. It's the opposite. So don't think that it's crazy if you think for yourself that you already have it. Behave that you already have it, because in the now, what you have right now is what you projected. Don't say, I'm waiting for that man to come. Well, you're going to keep waiting, because only the word waiting is not you have it right now. And the quantum structure is mirroring whatever you said, whatever you think. That's why you keep waiting. And when it comes, don't expect that could be the next person. Because the next person could be something you say, oh, I don't want to deal with that person because I see what is happening. Thank you, gratitude, and you're moving forward, because through that person, you end up learning some kind of experience. Each moment this happens, you're going to continue on and on and on, because you need to bombard it sometimes for 2 years, something to explode. Because through the journey, you're rediscovering what to do, what not to do, in order to construct that final reality that you wanted. So never give up. You're going to play like a hide-and-seek game. I know I have it. I don't know when I'm getting it. And you're constantly looking on and on and on and on. And not only that teaches you how to manifest, but it's also projecting it in incredible stuff from the heart, because that's how we deconstruct realities, timelines. This is exactly how we do it. It's not the other way around. You're always doing it, but somebody's controlling you. Somebody's telling you, oh, it's going to be a big storm. Well, I can say, well, thank you very much. This is in your reality. I'm going to create that is beautiful. And I'm going to start thinking how beautiful it is. But I'm going to feel the sun. I'm going to feel how beautiful it is. I'm going to think I'm in a ocean, or I'm in anything. Even if you see something negative is happening, you're going to keep bombarding with the frequency of the sun and how it feels, because you're going to crystallize it. Crystallization means you brought something from the blueprint into a matter structure reality. Does that make sense? Okay. Any other question? Go ahead. Yeah. No, go ahead. Is this too complex, guys? Do you really understand? Because sometimes I may say something could be... Yeah.
So I know someone personally that projected a part of himself from that future gray timeline, where the grays are actually the humans who went through the negative AI and the metallic changes, and they became grays.
Yeah.
So they came back here, projected themselves back here into this reality to change that future. Can you talk a little bit about that? And I assume that's the grays that are talking to you as well.
Hybrids. They're different type of grace. Don't think that I throw myself right into and said, oh my God, here I am. No, I didn't listen. And when I didn't listen, I always end up in a situation. Every single time I had a physical stuff happening to me to stop certain people take advantage of me, or they will tell me something, I wouldn't listen, and it's going to be right in my face. So I had a very tough lessons with them, because this is how I gained trust. I have to be ludicrous, crazy to think that here I am and let's go, take over. No. I didn't listen until all the synchronicity happens to build trust with them, and everything was love, giving, sharing, and this is how I started to pay attention to what they were saying. We talk in different timelines. That person ended up tapping in a timeline that the grays were existing, but in a different timeline. Even if it's another, understand that the whole entire universe is made from this one structure. So that person is also part of the gray time structure, but it's infinite. Each dot it's a different timeline, different universe, expands to infinite, collapses to infinite. So when they talk about it, which timeline they talk about it? When we read Akasha Crackers, the infinite Akasha Crackers, which timeline of reality we reading? And is no wrong or is not something that is right, is depending if you yourself as a consciousness take that as a truth. Because at the moment you take that as a truth, boom, gets like expands into reality for you. It's depending how you take. Anybody can tell you anything. But if you choose to believe or not, it's up to you. And this is how you create the structure. Anybody can say anything. So I would neutralize with that person. In order to neutralize what we need to shut down the program. So you're going to go back with that person, going to say, okay, imagine the gray, go through the experience, but go through understanding. Thank you for the experience. I love you. Because then you shut in the running program. And then replace it with positive. Think about that, ET. Thank you for the experience, but with love. Because then you're going to transform it. You're going to shut the program down. And now the person is going to start running a different timeline for themselves that no longer that experience exists. Because you also exist in multiple realities of expansion at the same time. And one, you have ET connection. The other one, you end up divorcing. The third one, you got something else. Which one of these realities you tapping into and creating? So once you shut the program, that person no longer, if he's able to shut it down, because you may always give an example and you can always suggest, but it's up to the person. That's why we need to learn to switch the emotions, because they're the ones that actually controlling your timelines and realities. Very good question. Wow, that was a good question. No, it's running simultaneously. Remember, the reality itself is, imagine infinite channels, and each channel is running at the same time. It's up to you consciously which reality of a timeline you're going to see by tuning the frequency of it. Because each timeline is running in its own frequency. All of them are running at the same time. If you stand in front of the big screen and you see how in a sports bar they have one golf, each one is resonating in a certain frequency. How do you switch the channel? With the remote control. Who is the remote control in our reality? That's right, us. You are the vessel of shifting and creating the timelines. So that's why nobody can control you. We're that powerful. But they took this power because they made you believe that your mirror image is the real you, not you. And this is the why we've been so manipulated. Because none of us knew the structure. Once you know your own structure, you're free. We are free. They said, Marina, we are free. Humanity can be free because around the planet, we had a shield, by the way. The way Star Trek, remember, they wanted to do something and they had a shield. We had that, but that was a geometry structure. So we as a soul, as a consciousness, cannot get out of it because with so much power. Everything was done to suppress your energetic field to ascend normally, because humanity, when we were made from the ETs, we were made to go through the stages of ascension until somebody took over and made you believe that the mirror image is you. And you're reproducing the same thing over and over again, eye for an eye, and you never be able to get out of the timeline. They were trying to keep us in a 3D timeline, which was the Archon timeline, because they cannot ascend naturally from the natural source. They had to build artificial portals with technology like an Archon AIs in order to exist. That's why they were keeping you in war. What's happening in war? I'm going, but that was a lie. You're killing another human being. Immediately, the structure comes there. Well, the next lifetime, you have to clean it. Until you clean all these structures, how are you going to move forward? So that was such a manipulation. It was unbelievable. Go ahead.
Okay, this is going to be our last question.
Yeah, so knowing all of this, from now on, because the grid is down, we can go to 0 point and manifest completely without having to go over and over cleaning up our mess in the back?
Yes, every single time you end up in a situation, you gotta neutralize it to 0 point. It's a one video on that. It's called Mobilizing Structure. Marina JACOBI, Quantum Manifestation, Part 2. mobilizing structures. But please never skip, because it's like a math. They gave me fractions, little bit, spoon by spoon. If you skip one to another, you're literally not going to understand. I'm going to throw you off. Because if right now I start talking about different timelines and what we need to do there, everybody's going to get lost. It's just complex. One of the bylaw, I had to repeat 15 times. Because it was so complex. When they told me, oh, you exist with us right now, but you're in the planet Earth at the same time. And I thought I've lost it. I didn't want to talk to anybody until 2 days later, one of the biggest psychics had a deep trance and said a fragment. And it was exactly what I was told. And then I kind of calmed down. But this is when they were teaching me simultaneously timelines. The reason why the negative structure cannot make it is because even that negative person exist in all the timelines, and their higher self will sabotage 3D platform in order for humanity to move forward, because it's ascension protocol. Consciousness is moving. You have no right to go against yourself and to suppress anymore. We're moving. Nothing is stopping it. The avalanche started. So what you're going to see, a lot of stuff happening around the globe, and they told me it's going to escalate to such a point that it's going to be right in your face. If you've been, for example, in some situations, so believe somebody that is very potent as a negative being, something's going to happen right in front of you, they said, to the point that you no longer will be confused if this person is positive or negative. And that will be to every single human being. Why? Because every single human being is part of what? The structure itself. So you're actually talking to yourself if you know everything. So this is a lot of videos. I have more than, first season is 14 videos, season 2, and that's only in a quantum structure. So I would suggest, if you wish to study it, 10 minutes by 10 minutes until you penetrate, because what they gave us, guys, is a freedom. That is the weapon to shift the timelines and the realities. That's what they gave us. Okay? Thank you so much. I made it!